Welcome everyone to Meditation Mount and to this solstice celebration. We're gathered from different parts of the world. And so let's take a moment just to bring ourselves together and to create a coherent field in which we can stand and celebrate together. So let us begin by going inside that still, quiet place that is the heart. And we both visualize and sense at the center of our heart a flame. This flame is the fire of love. And it is the light that lights our path. So let us see beams of this light pouring from each of our hearts to touch the hearts of all gathered together in virtual space as we weave together a lighted matrix of love. Thank you, everyone. So we're celebrating the festival of light in many of the parts of the world and through many of the world's cultures and traditions. Hanukkah ended this past Friday evening, and today we light the fourth and final candle of Advent. So this is the solstice. And the solstice is the time of day when the light of day is either at its longest or its shortest. The solstice is a still point between the breaths. And here in the northern hemisphere, it will be the winter solstice tomorrow, which is the shortest day. While in the southern hemisphere, the summer solstice, or the longest day, will be celebrated. So today we are celebrating the return of the light. And this is an image that we know as the Celtic cross. This image predates Christianity. It's an ancient symbol of the earth. Both astronomically and astrologically, the earth is depicted as a cross within a circle. The earth beats 4 times a year through the rhythm of the seasons. And we're told that each season has its special quality and is watched over by one of the 4 archangels. The changing of the celestial guard takes place at the time of the solstices and the equinoxes. So tomorrow, the archangel Michael, who overlights the season of autumn, will hand over to Gabriel, who is the guardian of winter. And correspondingly, in the southern hemisphere, the archangel Raphael, who watches over spring, will hand over to Uriel, who presides over the summer. So there's this interplay always between the cosmos and humanity, between the angelic realms and the human realms. And our traditions and rituals are all ways of keeping the connection alive between heaven and earth. For instance, in ancient Egypt, at the time of the winter solstice, it was a celebration for the return of the light, the return of the sun god Ra. And what they used to do, according to legend, was the first male child to be born after the solstice was paraded through the streets as the incarnation of the sun god Ra, or the reincarnation. And this guaranteed the return of the light for another cycle. As this baby was carried through the crowds would greet him with a cry of hoorah, 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 because Ra was the sun god. And so you see the use of hooray and hoorah today are vestiges of that ancient ceremony. We may have lost the understanding of its significance, but we still say hooray and hoorah. In the old calendar, the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere was celebrated on December the 13th, which is traditionally known as St. Lucy's Day, or the festival of Santa Lucia, the bearer of light. So what's special about this year is that it's not just a celebration of the annual ritual of the winter and the summer solstice. As Diana will explain later, the solstice tomorrow signifies a portal that has solar and cosmic dimensions that opens up a whole new era. And we're told in the Agni Yoga teachings that this new era is characterized by the feminine principle. It's the era of the mother of the world. And to honor this, yesterday at Meditation Mount, we inaugurated this new era of the divine feminine with the unveiling of a statue of Kuan Yin. We were gifted this statue several years ago, in fact, just over 3 years ago before the Thomas fire. And we've been waiting until the right time. And we felt that at this solstice, as we step into a whole new era together, would be the perfect timing to unveil the statue of Kuan Yin, who represents the divine feminine. And many of you know the legend of Kuan Yin, but let me very briefly repeat it. So Kuan Yin is often referred to as the female Buddha. And she was a beautiful Indian princess who forsook marriage and the good life to live in a convent in order to become truly enlightened, to become a bodhisattva. And she did that. And after reaching enlightenment and the right to enter nirvana, she stood there at the gates of heaven. And then Kuan Yin heard a despairing cry of someone back on earth. And upon hearing that sad lament, she quickly returned and vowed to stay to help all those who suffer so that they may achieve the same level of enlightenment that she had achieved, so that they too could enter nirvana. So this is a corresponding vow of Kuan Yin that the Buddha gave. As we know, the Buddha said, "I will not enter nirvana until the last blade of grass has become enlightened." So it's incredibly reassuring in these dark times to know that we are embraced and held by the divine feminine, by the Buddha, in light and love. They've got our back. They've got us, they hold us. Kuan Yin means the one who hears the cries of the world. And we completed the unveiling of Kuan Yin here at Meditation Mount yesterday afternoon by reading the Mother's Prayer that was especially written for this occasion. So let's read it together now. This is a counterpoint and a complement to the Lord's Prayer. This is the Mother's Prayer. Our Mother, whose body is the earth, blessed be thy name. Thy love prevail and live in each of us and all creation. Bless us this day with thine abiding grace, and open our hearts to the power of love so we may give of this love to all and lead us from darkness and fear into the radiant light of our Christed self. So that's what we're in front of, a whole new era as we celebrate this festival of light, this solstice. And Diana now will share with us the deeper significance of this solstice because it happens to coincide with the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And it opens the portal to a new cycle that some people are calling the Renaissance of the soul. So Diana, please share with us your wisdom.
Thank you, Michael, Meditation Mount. Glad you guys are all here tonight on this very powerful portal time that we are in as we are entering this change of planets in the sky. And I really encourage you to go outside and look at this double star conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn that are the closest they've ever been together in the sky. And you will see the double star of it. If you have a clear sky, you'll be able to actually see the 2 points. But if you kind of fuzz your eyes, it looks like a single star. And that is what the Magi were looking for, right? At the time of Jesus's birth. So it's interesting, here we are at this new change of guard. In the last 200 years, we have been all working through earth signs because Jupiter and Saturn, every 20 years or so, come into some form of a conjunction. But now they are the tightest conjunction, and since really the early 1400s, the conjunctions have been always and mostly all in earth signs. And now we're going into a 200-year cycle of air sign conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. That's going to change the whole way we look at ourselves as a humanity and how we regard each other and treat each other for the highest good on our planet. And so this particular conjunction this year that happens to fall on this exactly on the winter solstice, on the same day as the winter solstice, just hours away from the winter solstice, is acting like a portal or highlighter. It's amplifying this changeover, and it's at 0 degrees. 0 degrees Aquarius, the first degree of Aquarius, as we begin these pulses now of the age of Aquarius, as we're starting to begin those first steps, because there's still a long while before we're in the age of Aquarius, but these are our first baby steps as our harbingers. They are heralding the light that is coming and that we are growing together during this time. And so as we make this changeover for the new year, starting to me on December 21st, the true new year, the day of shortest light in the Northern Hemisphere, longest light in the Southern Hemisphere, we turn the page. We open the Advent calendar. We turn the page as we come into a whole new way of looking at our world. And what perfect timing is this for where we are as a humanity right now. There's so much happening on our planet that needs the healing that Jupiter and Saturn moving into Aquarius for the first time in hundreds of years in this way are happening at 0 degrees Aquarius. So just for reference, if you're meditating and you want to meditate at the exact time, we'll look at the winter solstice chart just so you can see it with your own eyes and see sort of the numbers of it so that you can look. This is the solstice chart, the natal chart, where you can see in around 6 o'clock, 6:30 there, the sun, which is a circle with a dot in it, at 0 degrees Capricorn 0. Every single year at the solstice, how the solstice is established is when the sun comes into 0 degrees Capricorn 0. This year, look at what's next to it, Mercury, exactly also at 0 degrees Capricorn. And just behind it at exactly 6 o'clock, you will see what will be in the morning, Jupiter and Saturn at also 0 degrees of Aquarius at 11:50 a.m. And this is Pacific time, of course. But at 11:50 a.m. Pacific time, that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction will be absolutely exact. But we are feeling it right now. And the solstice will be exactly conjunct at 2:02 a.m. Pacific time. So take note to where you are in the world to see what exactly that time is. So with all these things in mind, it helps us to remember sort of what is happening with this grand conjunction. It is a turning point. It is the new frontier as we venture forth into the light, into more light than we've had in air signs. We are now out of the earth in that way of kind of doing it with our own hands and with the material, the matter, the material. We are now moving at the speed of light, at the speed of mind and consciousness as we move into this new time in our world. Meanwhile, just so you know, if you were looking at that chart, the moon and Neptune were also conjunct. So this is a very important time to meditate. Your meditations will be very powerful. And as when we move into the next portion of this event tonight, we will be talking about that even more, the light that we're growing right now. So as Jupiter is the esoteric ruler of Aquarius and part of the rulership of the heart and the second ray of love wisdom, we're getting a great pouring through of that love wisdom onto this planet with the seriousness and the karma of Saturn next to it. And so this is a potent time. And for us that meditate in consciously in groups in the way that many of us do, we are creating a network, a matrix for this light to pour through and come onto this planet in a way that is filtered through the consciousnesses that we are, so that that light becomes a beacon, that light becomes, we become lighthouses as we radiate that light outwardly out into our world through the consciousness of our meditation lineup. So we are the stewards of that light. We are the lighthouses of that light, of that radiation. This is a time of passing through this portal, this gateway of light that we're moving into. And on that note then, and as we enter this holy time and this longest silent night on the Northern Hemisphere, prepare now as Halina will lead us in this Advent ritual and the lighting of the candles.
Thank you, Diana and Michael. And hello to all participants and friends of Meditation Mount around the world. It is a pleasure to be here with you to introduce our final segment of this evening, that is a brief ceremony of invocation to the light that is part of a much larger ceremony that many have been participating in. I want to begin by first placing what we are about to do, the lighting of the fourth Advent light, into a fuller context. That is a spiritual, a religious, and a solar planetary event, some of which has already been alluded to by Diana and Michael. Christmas period is for many millions, and in fact billions of traditional religious, a time of reflection and celebration for the birth of the light of the world through the one they knew as Jesus. The whole story of the birth that happened in a manger or cave, the appearance of the star, the three wise men traveling to visit the newborn, all have a deeply significant meaning to spiritual people, irrespective of their religious tradition. The celebration of this birth 2,000 years ago has its origins in multiple cultures around the world and dates back many thousands of years. What is a common theme to all of them is that a higher light or a new energy took birth to a human being to anchor that new energy on earth for an evolving humanity. As it was then for the Piscean age, so it is now. We herald the birth of Aquarius. The Saturn-Jupiter conjunction was present during that time. According to Halina Blavatsky, it was the combined light of these two planets that looked like a star in the heavens that the three wise men followed. Along with this, wisdom of our students, ever leading humanity to a higher destiny. So when we speak of the birth of light coming through a human being, we give that being a name. 2,000 years ago, it was the initiate Jesus, prepared to bring this light through him. And to the student of the ageless wisdom teaching, it was a greater being known as the Christ who worked through that initiate in the last 3 years of his life, and who performed all the miracles of healing and bringing in new teachings to humanity. Christ brought the light of love for the first time onto this planet, which acted as a saving force, lifting humanity onto a higher rung of the ladder of light. And few know that the Christ himself was overlighted by yet another and even greater being, known as the Spirit of Peace. The phrases and songs sung at this time of year, peace on earth, goodwill to men, to all on earth. And this is a powerful mantra phrase to sing or meditate upon, revealing the meaning. What I now want to briefly focus on is the meaning behind the words, I am the light of the world. Again, another powerful, significant phrase. In the book, Ways and Initiations, we read, it must ever be borne in mind that the great theme of light underlies our entire planetary purpose. The full expression of perfect light, the light of love, the light of knowledge, and the light of life, permitted the Christ to say, I am the light of the world. As this light spread, it became the light of knowledge and education, and is the incentive behind all our great schools of learning in every country in the world. The mystery of electricity, an aspect of the light of life, is revealing that a human is composed primarily of light atoms. And the light in the head, so familiar to meditators, is brought about by the fusion of the light inherent in substance itself, in the brain itself, and the light of the soul in each of us. And the light of love is the purpose of our solar God and the means by which we will come together as one humanity. These words carry meaning to all true aspirants and disciples on the path of light and present them with the goal which they can define to themselves as that of finding the light, appropriating the light, and themselves becoming light bearers. So then, in this ritual of esoteric Advent, we build upon and take to a deeper level of meaning and significance the religious impulse of the churches and billions of spiritual people celebrating the advent of light. An esoteric Advent, in its essence, is the anticipation of and preparation for the coming of the light for a new age, dawning the age of Aquarius, for the birth of new light, for the birth of new teachings, and for the birth of a new representative to anchor that light in humanity that we can simply now name as the Aquarian Christ. So, in this newer understanding, we can touch into multiple levels of being of this light as the Christ, from the cosmic Christ embodied by that stupendous sun Sirius, to the solar Christ, or Son of divine love, thence embodied by certain planets in our solar system, Jupiter, Neptune, and Venus, to the planetary Christ upon our earth, and to the Christ that is the triune soul in every human being, the Christ in us, and to that Christic essence, that impulse, that light that is found in the heart of every atom. So as we come now to lighting the fourth Advent light, tradition speaks of wreaths, 5 lights. One meaning is a 5-pointed star, symbolically representing 4 cardinal directions, plus a 5th for spirit. The glyph for the symbol of earth is a circle with an even-armed cross inside. And all who take incarnation come into the influence of the sphere of earth, or the fourfold field of daily living. And the vertical spiritual dimension is the 5th, the uppermost point of the star, which is lit on Christmas Day or on the solstice, representing new light being born from a solar planetary reality. So before we begin, to understand what we are lighting, we can gain some magical insight from a book called Treatise on White Magic, written by the Tibetan master and teacher through Alice Bailey, where a reference is made to an ancient text dating back to early Atlantean times. The material for the writing is so old and frail that the original is kept in Shambhala. And if a master wants to read it, he or she has to precipitate it. In other words, manifest it in form to read. There are 4 words, plus a 5th, that are representing great cycles of time through which humanity has moved. Some now extinct and some yet to come. But for our present Earth humanity, 4 sacred words were given, held by 4 angelic intelligences standing round a square, passing each word mouth to mouth, one for each direction. And they are as follows. From out the eastern corner of the square, a light divine is seen with the injunction to love all. From out the south, the word peals out, I dedicate. From out the west, the answer is thrown back, I serve. And from out the north, a word is chanted that means, be pure. It is for this word that we light today's fourth Advent light. The fifth is lit on Christmas Day, and it means altogether spiritual attainment, which form the 5 qualifications for the white magician. So let us begin. And we will hear in the background music the sacred word Om sounding. So let us ourselves sound the word to empower the field and call in the angel of the north. We dedicate this ritual to the coming of the light, the coming one, the beacon of light and great heart of love, to the kingdom of souls, great potency of the inner group, and to the soul of humanity, merging the two in one. Meditatively, hold in mind the advent of the light of the world as we ritually relight the first, second, and third Advent lights. As we light these lights, let us keep in mind the true mystic meaning of lighting a candle, a symbol for the light of the world. And we say, with these lights as symbol, the light of the world advances the awakening of every soul of humanity and affirming the love and life of God present in the heart of every atom. And work with me now in the invocation of higher energy. So placing your dominant hand over your heart, connect with the life energy of the heart. And with feeling in tone, with noble heart and pure intent. And we lift to the crown the energies of the heart and life and consciousness to divinity, reaching into the flame of divinity. I draw upon the inherent powers of the true soul, and we bring this energy down, drawing life energy into the heart, and pausing briefly, opening our hands to bless the world, saying, for bringing forth new light into the world. And now, we light the fourth Advent light from the flame of the third, whilst intoning with soul power. In this fourth Advent light, we light this light for the coming of greater light, for the light of the world to be with us. With this light, let us look to the angel of the Lord of the northern portal, who abides in a mountain where power resides. Angel of the northern portal, be with us as witness and aid to all who have here gathered in group approach to divinity, for spreading peace upon earth and goodwill to all, uplifting all conditions for a new world unfolding. From out of the north, let us hear the word now chanting, meaning, be pure. Having heard the word from the northern portal, we affirm our stand in the fullness of cooperation. And now, as a group, we face the light. We become the light. We are the present future light shining in the world. And let us close with this mantra. In the center of all love we stand. From that center, we, the soul, will outward move. From that center, we, the ones who serve, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in our heart, through our group, and throughout the world. Each of us is the light of the world, and by joining our minds in this light, we become that abode of light that is the kingdom of God, together and as one. Let us forward move into the world. So be it.
Thank you, Halina. Thank you, Diana. And thank you, everyone, for sharing in this solstice celebration from Meditation Mount. This is the birth, not just the return of the light from afar, but the birth of the light within. We could even say that each of us is a fractal of the light of Christ, or the Christed light that lives at the heart of each atom. So this is a very significant time, a very joyful time, very sacred time. And as Diana and Halina mentioned, tomorrow is the actual passing into the solstice and this whole new era. And on a smaller cycle, here at Meditation Mount tomorrow, we start another 2-month cycle. We have the 6 pathways and principles of essential divinity, goodwill, unanimity, right human relations, spiritual approach, group endeavor. And tomorrow we move from the principle of essential divinity into the pathway of right human relations. And as we move into this next phase of meditation on this divine path, let us realize that right relations goes beyond the relationships we have with each other. It's the relationship we have with the multidimensional ecosystem of Gaia. It's the relationship we have with the cosmos. And as we sense today, it's the deep relationship that we have with our own inner light, the light of our essential divinity. So may this light shine as a beacon in these dark times. May we together be the lighthouse and be the beacon. Together, may we be the light of the world. And in closing, we will be playing Alleluia, written by Constance Denby. And so please feel free to remain in this lighted group space as long as is needed to fully assimilate what we've partaken in today, what we've received, and what we're giving out as this great circulation of blessing. So please, let's be at peace together. And may we be this light of the world from now on. Thank you. Deep gratitude and blessings from Meditation Mount.